My name is Vorra-Sel, and I am what you humans would call a scientist. A very experienced scientist. I have catalogued 432 civilizations across this galaxy. I have watched empires rise. I have watched empires burn. I've recorded it all with the calm, professional detachment of someone who believed they had seen everything the universe could offer. I was wrong. The mistake began the day I chose to study Earth. Allow me to set the stage. The year, by your reckoning, was 2041. The Galactic Observation Council, a very large collection of very old aliens arguing about paperwork, had flagged Earth as a Category 7 developing world. Category 7 means primitive, pre-warp, biologically fragile. No meaningful threat, the sort of world you assign to senior researchers who deserve an easy project. My superior, a smug, 8-armed creature named Delucos, dropped the assignment tablet on my desk and said, and I quote, "Try not to be bored, Vorra-Sel. Humans are basically still poking things with sticks." I should have questioned that statement. I did not. My research vessel, the Pale Notation, entered your solar system on a Tuesday, which humans, for reasons I still do not understand, consider universally miserable. My assistant, a young Vethian named Aura, stood at the observation console, her 4 eyes bright with professional curiosity. "Species classification, Vorra," she read from the scan. "Bipedal, soft-skinned, no natural armor, no venom, no regenerative tissue, limited sensory range." She paused. "They sleep for 8 hours every rotational cycle." "Fascinating," I replied. "I meant the opposite. They also," Aura added slowly, "turn off all the lights when they sleep." I blinked. "On my world, Veth-Karan, darkness is a weapon. Predators hunt in darkness. Civilizations survive by mastering it, or avoiding it entirely. Every intelligent species in the galaxy sleeps with bioluminescence, shielding, or at minimum, a light source. If you are intelligent, you fear the dark. They turn off their lights," I repeated. "Voluntarily," Aura confirmed. We stared at each other. "Run the threat assessment again," I said. "Vorra, I already ran it." "Run it again, Aura." We ran it 4 more times. The results did not change. Earth remained classified as low threat, slow developing, biologically fragile. Their dominant species lacked natural weapons. They fractured bones from short falls. They became ill from environmental shifts. Their young were helpless for years, an evolutionary liability by every galactic metric, and yet, something in the deep pattern analysis refused to settle. Nothing dramatic. Nothing obvious, just small anomalies, statistical stitches in the data that did not belong, numbers that behaved incorrectly. I accessed their historical archives. That was the true mistake. The first 30,000 years were predictable. Hunting, fire, primitive tools, a standard developmental arc. Then I found the caves. Humans had discovered something had lived in those caves before them. Large predators, multi-ton creatures, teeth longer than my forearm. Apex hunters perfectly adapted to darkness. Do you know what humans did? They moved in anyway. They carried their young into those caves. They examined claw marks etched into stone by creatures that had ruled that darkness for millennia, and they decided, this will do. Aura leaned over my shoulder, reading the record. She was silent for a long time. "Vorra," she whispered, "they did not find a safe cave." "No," I replied. "They made one." "Yes." Outside the observation window, Earth rotated slowly. Blue, peaceful, deceptively harmless. "Should we?" Aura began. "Yes," I said. "We should reconsider the threat classification." I reached for the assessment console. My hand was shaking, not from fear. I am a professional. I do not shake from fear. I shook because I had just realized something the entire galaxy had overlooked. The dark had never been humanity's enemy. It had been their training ground. I want you to understand something about the Galactic Observation Council. These are beings who have existed for thousands of years, beings who have watched stars collapse, beings who once reclassified an entire solar system as a minor inconvenience when it went supernova. They are not, by any reasonable definition, easily impressed. I filed my revised threat assessment at 0300 hours, ship time. By 0600, I had 17 missed communication requests from Delucas. By 0700, the Council had scheduled an emergency session. That alone should tell you everything. The session opened with Delucas projecting my report onto the main display like evidence at a crime scene, which, in hindsight, it essentially was. He read the revised threat classification aloud. His 8 arms crossed in that precise configuration that, in his species, communicates profound personal offense. Vorra-Sel, he said, with the kind of patience that is not patience at all. You have reclassified Earth from Category 7 to Category 2. Yes, I said. Category 2, he repeated. The same classification assigned to the Vreth Dominion. The same Vreth Dominion that once blockaded 3 solar systems. Simultaneously, I am aware of what Category 2 means, Delucas. Then explain to this council, he gestured broadly at the assembled senior researchers, all staring at me with varying degrees of disbelief, why a species that cannot survive mild temperature fluctuations deserves the same threat level. I brought up my evidence, gladly. I began with the simple truths. The council needed to be guided slowly, like someone being walked to the edge of a very tall cliff before being told to look down. Humans have spent roughly 200,000 years on a planet that is, by galactic standards, hostile. Their world swings between lethal heat and lethal cold. Storms flatten entire forests. Oceans cover 70% of the surface and plunge deep enough to crush most known materials into dust. And the dominant species is biologically under-equipped for all of it. No armor, no venom, slow reproduction, fragile bones, mediocre eyesight, inferior hearing compared to many coexisting predators. So how, I asked the council, did they become the apex predator? Silence. They decided to be, I said. That is the answer. They decided. The silence deepened. I advanced to the next section of my report, the part that kept Aura and me awake for 16 consecutive hours, running verification after verification because neither of us wanted to accept the implications. Humans did not merely survive their environment, they converted every threat into infrastructure, the oceans that should have drowned them. They built ships, then fleets, then crossed them for sport, the cold that should have killed them. They built fire, then furnaces, then cities that generate their own climate, the darkness that should have paralyzed them. They flooded it with electricity and called it progress. Then I displayed footage from the year 1969. I let it play without commentary. Soft-bodied organisms entirely unevolved for vacuum exposure constructed a machine from unproven components. They placed 3 of their own inside it. They aimed it at a celestial body 384,000 kilometers away, and then they ignited controlled explosions beneath themselves until the planet released its grip. One of the council elders, Sazetvo of the Puun, a being old enough to remember civilizations that no longer exist, leaned forward slowly. They did this, she asked, voluntarily. The individuals inside the machine, I replied, were celebrated for volunteering. Sazetvo leaned back. She did not speak again for the remainder of the presentation. I closed with what I consider the most significant data point in galactic behavioral studies. Before achieving interstellar capability, before guaranteeing planetary stability, before eliminating internal conflict, humans began broadcasting their existence into the cosmos. They built radio arrays. They transmitted signals towards stars hundreds of light years away. They constructed mathematical frameworks intended to communicate with unknown intelligence. They had no statistical guarantee of safety. They transmitted anyway. Delukos was quiet for a long time. "Vorra," he finally said. And for the first time in 15 years, he did not sound smug. He sounded careful. "What do you recommend?" I thought of caves claimed from predators, oceans crossed in wooden vessels, 3 humans riding fire into vacuum. "I recommend," I said, "that when they develop warp capability, and they will, we do not position ourselves as the first unknown they encounter." "And why is that?" I looked at the image of Earth rotating slowly on the display. Blue, calm, patient. "Because for 200,000 years," I said, "everything that threatened them is now gone. Not because they avoided danger, but because they pursued it." I paused. The last entity that underestimated human curiosity was the dark itself. No one laughed, no one objected. The assessment stood. Category 2, effective immediately. And somewhere below us, unaware of galactic deliberations, a human turned off their bedroom light, pulled a blanket over their shoulders, and went peacefully to sleep in the dark, as if it had never been something to fear, as if it had always belonged to them. Humanity was never afraid of the dark. The dark simply learned to survive them.